I want to inspire our nation to get solar panels on top of rental property roofs. Imagine your street, if 90% of the houses that were rented out had solar panels on top of those roofs. And I want it to be a blessing to the tenants as well, so that the rent does not go up to compensate for those solar panels on top of their roof and that they lose the benefit of it. And I've worked out how to do it. And I presented it at this Labor Party forum that I went to, and it was applauded. And the Labor Party politicians took my one-page document, but they haven't done anything with it yet, and it's possibly because of my middle paragraph that I didn't present on that day, which explains that I think they need to help people who don't own their own homes rather than those who do, because the people that own their own homes are the only ones who might take up the $2,000 offer for a battery for solar panels. I want to see them helping the people who are tenants, the people who their tax policy of no negative gearing on second-hand homes could really hurt, because that policy, there's a number of ways it can hurt, but one of the main ways is simply supply and demand. You reduce the supply of rental properties by that tax policy, which you will, and the rent goes up. So I want to protect those people. I want to try and help the people who can't afford their own home. Anyway, so how do we do it? And how do we fund it? Well, funding depends on which party gets elected or which party runs with this. To get solar panels on top of rental property roofs. And the way to do that is to change the depreciation. Let's change it for solar panels. Let's have an immediate tax deduction for rental property owners for solar panels put onto rental properties. Now that's not enough. For some people that'll give them a 40% rebate. So why would they spend 60% of maybe a $3,000 or $5,000 system, probably only $3, when they're only going to get back 40%? They wouldn't do it. There's got to be something in it for the property owners. And this is where my extra little idea comes in. A 40% refundable tax offset up to $1,500 on the cost of a solar system. There's a few conditions that need to go with this policy so that people don't try and rip off the system. 1, the property needs to have been rented for a period of 2 years before the owner qualifies for these special benefits. That way they don't just rent it out for a few months to their son and then put solar panels on it so that they can live in it. The next step is that the 40% rebate, refundable rebate, is spread over a 2-year period, or 2 tax returns I should say. And the reason is that I want to see that the rental income per week does not increase by more than 3%. Otherwise the tax offset is not available. Alright, so that way we control the rent. And I'm a tax agent, I specialise in that. We have to include how many weeks in a tax return that the property is rented. So if it's got a 1 month gap, we put in 48 weeks. And that way, say the rental income of $20,000 for the year, it can be divided by 48 weeks and you see the average rent. And that's part of what the ATO can analyse easy as anything. It's automatic and they can compare it to the year before. And if that hasn't gone up by more than 3%, then they get 50% of the refundable tax offset. So what this ends up meaning is for those who own rental properties, they can get back up to 85% of the value of the solar panels that they put on their roofs for the tenant. And I'd like to see solar panels become a real selling point for renting out a property. Just like air conditioning is and ducted heating. It adds to the value of the home and it adds to the desire for people to rent that property. And I want to see the tenants benefit from the massive savings that can be found from the solar system. I put a solar system on last year in August, and I put in more panels than I needed because that was far, far cheaper than a battery. Battery isn't worth it, I'm sorry to say, but they're not worth it. They cost $8,000 to $10,000, and a $2,000 rebate still will only bring it down to about $6,000, and they only last 10 years, I'm told. And when I analysed what I'm saving on my electricity bill, I, at the moment, am saving $1,890 a year because I work from home and I have large bills. I also had an old air conditioner and two old air conditioners, one which has died. But my if I put a battery in, the only extra money I could have saved is $312 for the year. So why would I put a battery in, which is going to effectively cost me a minimum $600 a year, to save $312? That's a policy that people will select and utilise if they haven't done their figures, if they haven't experienced solar systems. Please pass this on. It needs to get to politicians and maybe the media. Will you spread this message? Will you subscribe? Will you recommend it? This is to help others. This is to help our farmers. This is to stop as much global warming as we're having at the moment. Please get behind it. Please, please do that.